I want to figure out how to do like previews so that plays before I actually start streaming and get this down tighter. Hello, hello new people. It's lovely to see new people. Welcome to my first stream. I am probably going to get this show on the road pretty much right now, and hopefully you'll get something out of this. So, brief introduction. I am simply Q. Nothing more, nothing less, just a letter. And I do a lot of Pokemon drawing and a lot of monster drawings and a lot of drawings in general. And if you were looking at the playback, that's up in the upper left hand corner, you see that I do a bunch of regional variants. I got a whole series based on that. And they're gone. Oh well. C'est la vie. But for those of you that remain, I'm starting an entire series on this. It's coming along slowly because I'm slowly learning how to make videos in general. And yes, I ask that you bear with the terrible sound quality at the moment. My room is not audio treated, I know. I'm working on it. The material hasn't come in yet. But if you're willing to bear with me for the time being, maybe you'll catch something out of this. So we're going to put this on the pause and hop over to my main source of references, which is Pinterest. For monster designs. So on the top left hand corner is where I'm going to usually have the references that I use for Pokemon designs, usually just straight from animals and reptilians and stuff like that. Up there, so you guys get a look at what I usually use to reference. Sometimes I just go and look up pictures of goats and stuff like that.
To those who step up to work the sunrise shift, power through the double shifts, or conquer the overnighters, McDonald's
usually I just wind up being a very silent individual, but another big thing is I want to learn how to start talking more and getting interaction with you guys going more often, even though there's no one here in the chat at the moment.
We're happy to serve you.
But it's all good. So for the VODs, I'm going to start giving you little directions of what I do and how I operate. So, let's get started. As the title said, today is going to be more of a day for me to start drawing some starter Pokemon on my own, fresh from the ground up, and I wanted to show you my process so maybe you guys out there watching the VODs or in the chat figure this stuff out for yourselves as well. And usually when it comes to Pokemon designs and Pokemon videos on YouTube in general, I noticed that a lot of the time they will say, here's how you draw a Charizard, here's how you draw a Pikachu, but all they really do at the end of the day is just show you how to draw like a Charizard or a Pikachu. And I want to do something a little bit different. I want to show you exactly how I go about the process in a lesson kind of format. So when it comes to Pokemon designs in general, they seem to have a couple of key features that they want to keep going. And one of the key features is that they want every Pokemon to look like a friend, right? But how do we make a friend? How do we do that? How do we make something look friendly? And Kirby's actually a pretty good example of how we draw a friend. We keep it nice, we keep it round, and we kind of have this golden ratio thing going on. The golden ratio is square thing, small, large on top of small is appealing, and it kind of makes you less afraid of whatever the structure is due to its stability. And with a lot of Pokemon, especially the starters, is that in order to build strong silhouettes, they use this kind of golden ratio, and they use shape language. And shape language is something a lot of people learn. Soft things are unassuming, soft things are nice. Square things are generally sturdier. You have that block feature. It's still not as soft as, say, a circle, but it isn't like super intimidating versus a jagged bunch of stars and stuff like that. So when we're designing Pokemon, we gotta kind of have this shape language in mind. And a lot of the times, people will try to what we call chasing the silhouette, where we try to go and design like this and try to get everything looking proper and right from the get-go. And we can have some success with that. But for the most part, we want to build with simple shapes and move up from there. Because when you build with simple shapes, one simple shape, two simple shapes, bring it over. Three simple shapes. Okay, that's looking a little rough. Four simple shapes. Five simple shapes. And bada boom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we got the workings of a recognizable design. Like, I don't think I need to go any further than this to show for you to guess what Pokemon we're drawing. And it kind of goes the same for essentially every Pokemon to a degree, and especially so for starters. All it takes is a couple of beans to get the rough layout, and from there you can usually figure out what do we got in terms of Pokemon designs. Even if it's not super good and super illustrated, you got the general gist. All it takes is from there to actually refine it and polish it up a little bit, and this is how we get our starters. We take simple shapes, we build them up, and then we add some little flares in there. Because starters are also, generally for the most part, just simple animals that you would find in day-to-day life. Yeah, sometimes you get a monkey or two. But the thing with starter Pokemon that I feel is really good about them is that they, 8 times out of 10, they tend to keep their inspirations and how they go about it grounded. More grounded in reality compared to other Pokemon. And we're going to start doing that here. Today we're going to be working on a fire starter, and we're going to be seeing what goes into what makes a fire starter design good. And I already have something in mind. So the question is, what do we want from this design? What do we want out of a fire starter? Obviously we want something to indicate that it's a fire starter, which is usually the color red. But from there, where do we go? What's usually the keystones of a fire starter? Well, fire starters, after a while, we notice that they take inspiration from the Chinese zodiac. And we've gone through 9 of them, 8 of them so far. We only got 4 left. And I think it's a cool idea if we go for, say, a ram. So what do we have in terms of ram shapes and ram bodies? And this is where Pinterest comes in. Pinterest is like the best source for getting literally anything, because you can go, you can look, and that's not the kind of ram I was looking for. Pinterest. There we go. So if you look up here into the top left corner of the screen, we got a whole bunch of references that we can use to look at rams and see what we got here. We got long curly horns, We got like this strong silhouette kind of build going on like this. So we got sturdiness. We have unique horn structures left and right. And we got interesting climates that they can come from. We got a lot of interesting horn structures. Because rams are essentially goats. And we can actually do a lot of cool things with goats, right? So, going from here, we have a solid idea of what we want from this design, right? So now it's a matter of making it starter friendly. With a lot of starters, we usually have bigger heads, smaller bodies. Usually in the past couple of generations, it goes bigger head, smaller bodies. But here's the thing about designing your own OC Pokemon is that you kind of, no matter how hard you try to emulate Ken Sugimori style or James Turner style as he's been taking over more and more, some of what you want to do will always bleed into it, right? So for me, I lean closer to Sugimori when I try to design Pokemon than James Turner. I like having a little bit more anatomy in my Pokemon designs. While James Turner likes to do abstraction. My bad. He likes to do abstraction. So okay, we're gonna do a ram. We're gonna do a goat. But another thing that starter Pokemon have been known to do in more recent generations, in order so it's not just a goat, or it's just a bear, or just this or that, is that they usually tend to add a theme to it, right? So a good question is, what do we want to theme this thing after? What's a cool theme for a Pokemon? And I was thinking about this. So why don't we take some fairy tale inspirations and like design a Pokemon around, say, a Brother Grimm tale or another mythology from around the world, right? Sounds like a cool idea. And as we go over here and look more at goats and rams, they can get kind of fuzzy, right? Like, look at this thing. They can get fuzzy, they can get matted, and they got a whole lot of hair that is often used for clothing and stuff. So here's where I want to go with this. What if we did one based off, say, Little Red Riding Hood? Just off the cuff, Little Red Riding Hood, right? It has red. You have a fire type. Maybe it'll work. So right now, we're in just a draft phase. We're not really trying to like have everything solid out, figured out right off the cuff. We're just kind of riffing it right now. But because it's a starter and we want to keep it appealing to the masses and appealing to the kids, we're gonna still keep a general rule of head large, body small, and make it kind of cute. And because it's a starter, we kind of have to pay more attention to, I should say, its individual features that make it a character compared to some other Pokemon. Like a rodent doesn't need all that much. Rattata isn't winning any awards for originality, and neither is any other rodent besides Bidoof for being the god that it is. But starters tend to sell. Yeah, starters tend to sell the whole generation as a whole. Starters and the legendaries. Those are the two things that are your entry point and your selling point for a given generation. So you got to put a little bit more time and effort into figuring those out. Right? So we have this goat guy. And maybe we want to make it a little bit goofy and make it so its fur is covering its face. Hasn't been trimmed. Give it some ram horns. And try to keep the shape simple. Because when you build, because keeping the shape simple makes it easier for us to like parse everything that's going on in a design. And it helps us as the people that are drawing this stuff to essentially keep a track list in our heads about how we're going about this. When we can parse it and be like, okay, this is just circles on top of circles on top of circles, we're not trying to figure out what the hell did we do 2 seconds ago, right? So we're just doing this nice and easy, keeping it nice, keeping it smooth. We're not really worrying about anatomy. We're not really worrying about anything other than the general silhouette. And the silhouette we can sit there and manage and smooth out later.
To those who step up to work the sunrise shift, power through the double shifts, or conquer the overnighters, McDonald's wants to serve you.
And we're sponsored by McDonald's.
At a great price. Enjoy a savory
Don't worry about it.
with egg, a warm
You
chicken
love
noodles,
McDonald's.
or a flaky
McDonald's
McChicken
loves
biscuit
you.
for just $2
And we
each.
all
Swing
love
by McDonald's today, no matter
this
the shift.
design.
We're happy
I'm
to
assuming.
serve you.
Actually, I'm not 100% with it
Price of
quite
participation
yet.
may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal.
But what's important is that right now, we kind of got a strong silhouette, don't we? Let's see. If we just take that, new layer. Cute. The goal with this is to see, hey, does this resemble any other Pokemon? Are we kind of stepping on anyone's toes by doing a design like this? If we were to do a lineup, would this stick out compared to everything else we've gotten so far? And that's really the key to a good Pokemon design in general. Be it a starter, your early rodent, your legendaries, is if you were to just black it out like this, could someone tell what it is from a glance? We're not quite there yet with this design, I'll admit. But the beautiful thing is, this is just draft number 1. Now, how people go about it depends on the individual. Some people just take this and modify it from here. Some people will just drag and drop, Control Z, Control V, everything in their path. But me, I usually just pop a new layer, screen this, drop the opacity, bust out a slightly darker version of what we had before, thin out the brush, and see where we can go from here. Where do we take this? So the question is, where can we go from here? Is there places where we can go? Are there elements that we feel like we should exaggerate or leave behind? And that's the other key thing about starter Pokemon. Pokemon in general, actually, is that usually there's 1 or 2 features that are slightly exaggerated. That's the pinpoint of its design structure. Charmander, it's its flames. Bulbasaur, it's its bulb. Squirtle, it's its shell. Mudkip, it's its weird fin flap on the top of its head. Pokemon like Blaziken, it's its long fiery feet thing. So what we got here with this goat, obviously for a goat, we should probably put more dramatization into its horns right here. And its coat, because like I said, we want to make this look a little bit like Little Red Riding Hood, as its fairy tale inspiration to go along with its, natural animal inspiration, right? So we got two elements here that we kind of want to figure out. So we're going to focus on making the horns a little bit bigger. And from here, we're also going to want to sit there and try to tighten up the anatomy a little bit. It's Pokemon, so the anatomy never has to be too tight, But with Sugimori, there's still traces. A lot of the times it's simplified and stylized, but it's still there. Whoop. And we also wind up putting some little touches that we personally like into our designs too. For instance, I want to give this thing some chubby cheeks. Make it as cute as possible. What are goat noses like? And I still actually want to keep its hair in its face and still have that cover its eyes. I think that's a cute little detail that I want to keep around. And let's make the shawl. Let's call it a shawl. Actually, it's a hood. Let's call it the hood because that's what it is. Let's make the hood a little bit longer on its body, right? And eventually, for a lot of this stuff, it's going to be a trial and error thing where we each got to like figure ourselves out and figure out what we like in the design and what we want to keep and what we don't want to keep. And little things like, hey, what are aspects of Sugimori's design that I may not like for myself and I think I can improve upon, or what do I want to do better? So for me, it's like Sugimori does this thing with a lot of his designs where he has this really nice soft and round spike where it just kind of eases in, eases out. Kind of like this. It got rounder over time. It used to be like these hard jagged spikes, and you see that a lot on like Pokemon like Pidgey and such. But when you get to like Starly and those brands, Gen 4 especially, you kind of see this smoothing out of features. And I try to like replicate that in my design. But other aspects, like how later designs Pokemon like Zora or Fennekin, like their feet are just technically just nubs, and those work fine, and I like those designs a lot. But it's just a part of me is just like, I like having proper anatomically correct digigrade foot on Pokemon designs. I just think that's a little bit cooler. So even when I'm like designing regional variants or stuff like that for pre-existing Pokemon, I wind up doing that kind of stuff. Let's see what we got here. Before and after. See, there's a little bit more character coming through now. And that's kind of what we want out of our Pokemon design, right? But now we got to figure out the whole rest of the body. So we got this whole rest of the body, and like I was saying before about big head, small body, I think I'm actually gonna shrink it just a tad, not too much. Or I might not shrink it at all. Maybe that little... Yeah. But like with other aspects, I'm going to go back and see if I can reference goat design a little bit to see if I can take their feet and legs and see if there's some anatomical things I can mess around with, or if I'm just gonna go with stubs, because sometimes just going with stubs is like the option, because it's a goat. Like, their feet are already just knuckles, so there's not much I can do there. And that's another balancing game. But the question is, what's more interesting, just a nub or a little bit of anatomical correctness? And then the question then becomes, but what's more appealing? A little bit more anatomical correctness or the nubs? And these are like just decisions that you're gonna have to make for yourselves. But I guarantee you that people will like it. Because I've been noticing a lot more Pokemon content recently of people just kind of doing their own things, making up their own designs. And I notice that the fan base just kind of loves it. Because the fan base is always looking for more Pokemon. So you don't need to be the best. You don't need to be Ken Sugimori. You don't need to be Loxton. You don't need to be James Turner. You just gotta be you. And eventually something will come out of it. Now the $1 million question is, should I keep it or leave it? And there we go.
the Sport Clips Haircuts app. Check in, track your arrival time, get a 15-minute alert when it's time to head in. If it were any more convenient, it would cut your hair. Sport Clips, the pros in men's hair.
Opt-in required. Message and data fees may apply.
And Sport Clips because I am broke as hell and I can't afford to just make Spotify do Spotify things without the ads.
Red Cup season is just a tap away. Download the app today.
Download those apps. Consume McDonald's. Live, laugh, love. That's my lesson for today. Don't worry about Pokemon anymore. Just live, just laugh, just love. Only at Mickey D's though. So as you can see, like, I was going back and forth a lot with, say, should I just keep the foot more anatomically correct? Would that make a more interesting design? Would it make a less interesting design? And I kind of went on with the, sure, it might have been a more intricate design, but it didn't need to be like that. So I kind of decided to forego on that for that time being. But the beautiful thing about, like, making your OC Pokemon is that you can change the design as much as you want, however you want. You ain't beholden to a company making sure that you got a deadline. Everything is up for change. Everything is permitted, nothing is sacred. And besides, this starter has 2 more evolutions, so if we want to go and introduce more anatomical elements to it, we can do that in the future. I just need to even this out a little bit. And I think we have something good going. But sometimes you see things that aren't there, and then you're like gonna go back and forth. Do I want to do this? Do I want to keep that there? Is it even? Maybe I just need to tilt it a little bit. 101 micro decisions being made at 1,000,000 miles per hour. But that's why Control Z exists. And then we top it off with its tail. And let's see what we got. Before, after. I think we have something good going on here. I think we added a little bit more personality by messing with the general proportions a little bit. And it was only just a little bit, making the head a little bit bigger and adding some roundness to its facial structure, giving it fluffy cheeks, and giving a little bit more giving it a little bit more of a human personality through its smile, because goats don't smile like that. Goes a long way in keeping a design appealing and fresh. So I think we got a good thing going on here. It's still a little bit messy though, so that's when we go into the inking phase of all this nonsense. With Clip Art Studio, it's like really cool because it just has a vector layer, just straight up, no need to like mess around with anything. You hit a button and boom, every line on the next layer is just a vector. Now here's the neat little thing about Pokemon. How they decide to ink their designs changes a lot. And it's something I didn't even notice until like I started referencing Pokemon designs more. Sometimes you have super clean line work, and then I noticed that some designs have this weird little thing where the line will like kind of oscillate a little bit between thick and thin, even in its line work, as if it's being used with like an older pen or something. And I kind of like that aesthetic. You can barely see it most of the time though in a lot of the official renders, because it's like on a piece of paper or it's super small. But when you go on to say Bulbapedia and like look up say Lucario or something, I wonder if Zangoose. I was doing something with Zangoose earlier. But aha! You probably can't see it because the screen is like super tiny. But even here with Zangoose, if you go onto Bulbapedia yourself and look it up, like around here with the claws, around here with the feet where it's joined, there's a little bit more oscillation in line weight and how it's being varied. And I feel like that adds a bit of character, a bit of personal character from, say, Ken Tsukamori to like James, whose line art is actually a lot cleaner, that I noticed. So when you're doing line art, I'm not gonna say don't worry about it, but if you wind up adding your own flair, that's cool. And I think people would actually appreciate it when you do. Because at the end of the day, Pokemon fans are just thirsty for more Pokemon. They are never not thirsty to get their hands on any Pokemon, anything they can. So if you just come up with your own Pokemon, make your own Pokemon, the fan base will love it as soon as they see it. The fans love their unique designs. So if you ever want to go out there and do it, I highly suggest you do. Just don't follow my lead where I just like get petrifying stage fright and wind up not posting most of the stuff I make. I guess that's the big reason why I started making videos in the first place, is because I felt like if I just sat there and did this, I put so much work into it that I feel like I would have no choice but to like release stuff. Maybe it'll pay due dividends in due time, but until then I'm happy to entertain the two people that I currently got streaming. So another thing about line art is that following the sketch layer is never going to work out 100%. It's like you gotta follow the spirit of the sketch line. You're essentially iterating on the design with every layer that you do. Even if it's like a small thing like, I'm just gonna make these little fluffy things bigger. Even if it's minor, you're still gonna wind up changing a lot, because nothing is subject to stay the same. Case in point, Machamp used to have like 4 fingers and now it has 5. Which kind of blew my mind when I looked that up. So another key thing that people should do often, that I totally forgot to do this entire time, is to flip the canvas. Because flipping the canvas sometimes shows you, oh hey, maybe I screwed something up. Maybe it doesn't look good from all angles. Maybe I need to do something else. But your boy forgot to do that, and thank God I don't need to. What your boy does need is some water. I'll be right back. I'm still counting how many viewers are there. My apologies. I very rarely talk as long as I do consistently like this. So, like I was saying, luckily this time around I don't actually need to do any major editing on this design from this angle. So it's often a check, is everything looking right? Does everything look good? Okay, go back to the orientation that you're used to. I'm left-handed, so usually a lot of my drawings wind up facing to the left. And I gotta go and flip it to the right in order to see if it works. Whoop. So when it comes to inking, I used to like do this thing where I just go nice and small and get the fresh lines out there. And when I want to add a little bit more line variant, I would. But when I just need something to be nice and smooth, I tend to just try to do as many things in one big stroke as I can. And you see, the weird thing is, okay, it's not that weird, because I have Control Z whenever I don't like a line, which adds a whole lot more confidence, and really that's like the best thing you need when doing line art, is just the confidence that, hey, the line came out fine, it's whatever. Or in my case, it's I have Control Z on the clip, so I don't need to worry if I screw up a couple of lines or a couple hundred lines. Because for all intents and purposes, I'm still very much an amateur at a lot of this. And see, sometimes a good thing to do is flip and rotate when your wrist or your hand just can't get the line you want from the angle you want it. You never want to make your wrist like go and move in a way it doesn't want to move. Sometimes it feels weird and awkward. And when it feels weird and awkward, that's your cue to just find an alternative route to the solution that you're looking for. Never wait for your wrist to get weird and awkward before you start wanting to make changes on how you operate.
The Sport Clips Haircuts app. Check in,
And
track
never
your arrival
forget
time, get a
about
15-minute alert
Sports
when it's
Clip.
time to head in.
They're
If it were
like
any more
the
convenient,
greatest
it would
people
cut
on the
your
planet.
hair. Sport Clips.
It's
the
sports,
pros
it's
in
clips.
mid-air.
Opt-in
What
requirements
more
and
do you
changes
want?
Gearing up to get out there with 30% off select styles online
Food,
and in-store
money,
now through November 29th.
none of it's
Make sure you have
needed.
the North Face's Black Friday sale on your to-do list. Head to thenorthface.com to find savings for your next adventure.
You have sports and you have clips. So another beautiful thing about Clip Art Studio is that just being able to do that, not that. Bam, but that. You gotta love it. I can't tell you if other programs have a similar feature like that. I know Photoshop doesn't, but I don't recommend anyone use Photoshop ever. If you want a free option, I believe Krita is free. Krita's free. Krita's good. One of my friends goes by it, swears by it. So if you're looking for a program for yourself, well, Clip Art Studio is only like $50, and it's Black Friday, so probably $25. And when the holiday rolls around, it's probably still gonna be $25. And I've been using it for literal years now, and it's never done wrong by me. I hope this stream is actually like pleasant for y'all. And if it's not, feel free to let me know so I can do things to improve upon it. So let's check what we got right now. It's a little fuzzy. Hey, how's it going, Zane? Alright. So it's coming out clean. We only got a little bit more of this to go. And then we move on to the coloring. And coloring is actually really easy on Clip Studio. Sometimes when you want to get the line you want, it's best to just overextend and then chip away at what you don't want. Alrighty then. And boom. Okay. We shave off a little bit here. I'm sorry I'm not as talkative during the inking phase. Because, well, it's inking. It's mostly just going over what you have before, while doing a little bit of edit here and there. Alright. Pop that. I wonder. So I'm just adding a couple more lines to like just the horn, just so it can add a little bit more so I can add a little bit more 3D dimensionality to it. Not make it look so flat, you know? Boom. So now we have our finished line art of our Pokemon. Does it have a name yet? I do not know. So from here, how I go about doing this is, there we go. I use my auto select tool. I reverse it so everything inside is being selected, and then I go to fill. And another good thing about like Clip Art Studio is that you have a good number of different fill options to go for. First one is edit only, the editing layer, so it doesn't take into consideration line art or anything like that. Bump your grade to 50%. And boom. And now I add a new layer. On Clip Art Studio, you have this little icon here. And this clips the layer below it. Meaning I don't need to sit there and like zoom in or mask anything, because this is a clip mask. It's now clipped to this. Meaning I can just go back to here for the other layers. And boom. But the question is, do I want to make it that red, or do I want to ease up the load a little bit? So another thing I want to make a note of, and this is just a me thing, a personal thing, is that a lot of starter designs that I see around the web, both, well, not official, they've been straying away from a little bit more from their official design, is adding a little bit more color than, is that they don't necessarily, how do I put this? They take the red and then they make the entire design red. I used to see that a lot in fake Mon designs for starters and some fake Pokemon games, where they just make the entire Pokemon red and then they only add bits and pieces of other colors in order to like highlight it. While I noticed in the main games, they use those primary colors as a highlight and a secondary to illustrate its type. And I'm kind of leaning more on that side of things compared to the old way of just having your starter just be one whole red color or orange or what have you for your individual typing. So right now, I'm just kind of riffing it when it comes to the colors that I want on this thing. I kind of like that. I want to keep it warm, right? And let's add a little charcoal to it. Yes. And sometimes, like in every other bit of the process, you're gonna do some you're gonna reiterate on what you're already doing mid design. Like here, I noticed that I kind of like this section here. Let me just back. This section here, where there is this nice play on this little tan color, this charcoal black I got, and this red. I kind of like that. I'm kind of vibing with it, you know? So I kind of want to see that more in other designs. Well, more places on this design. And now it's like, where else can I do that? So maybe from here, I want to go back a little bit and just yeah, I'm kind of vibing with that. Oh crap, not that. There we go. Adds just a little bit more color and a little bit more color variation going on in that design. We still have its horns and we still have its nose that we gotta do. But sometimes with Clip Art Studio, you got these little tags that you gotta take care of. Other programs might not have those tags. It all depends on how you want to go about it. And I hope you guys go about it. Honestly, I kind of want to see what you guys come up with. And like, for real, when I say don't worry about whether or not you think it's good or not, it's Pokemon. People are gonna love it. I'm gonna love it. I'm kind of vibing this charcoal horn look that's going on right now. Looks like a mini Keldeo. I'll take it. I'll take mini Keldeo. I'll take that. I'll take that as a W. Another thing we can do is add I see what's going on here. looking? I think we got a good thing going on here right now with this Pokemon design.
The expert stylist at Sport Clips Haircuts are highly trained professionals who understand the subtle nuances of men's
highly
hair.
trained.
Only the best make the
They're the best of the best.
Sport Clips.
Why are you watching my stream when you can be at Sports? Wait, no. Pause. I take that back.
Great music, right?
And we got that too.
Cowboy Bebop, the official soundtrack, now available on Spotify.
So we got this cute little design. I'm kind of vibing with the color choices I picked out. It's got that bit of flair and memorability that you have with other starter designs. And I think we got something good. And I hope you guys think we got something good here too. But we're not done yet. So the last step to getting this down is the rendering process, which is the shading and the lighting. And with that, we can first go up here and turn this off. We don't need this layer anymore. We pop a new layer, clip that to that, and we're gonna go to layer options, this little normal thing right here. And for me, I usually go into multiply, tone this down to like 50. Sometimes I tone it down even harder. Let's go with 40. And yeah, I got a whole lot of brushes, but like, you don't need my brush selection in all honesty. If you just have like a nice simple round brush, tone down the opacity ever so slightly, you'll get the same effect. And we're just gonna go in, oh crap, that's too dark. There we go. So this part, okay, that's too dark. That's too dark. A key thing when you're doing the shading is to make sure you got a good grasp on the shape itself, like the actual 3D shape that you're trying to represent here. Which, if we go and keep everything and build off of simple shapes, it shouldn't be too hard. Most people have a good grasp on how to shade a round thing. Most people got a good grasp on how to shade a box. So if we build our Pokemon designs off of like circles and boxes and stuff like that, when it comes time to actually render them and give them a little bit more 3D flair, we won't have that much of a hard time. And if you ever have trouble and need help figuring out, do note that in this upper like left hand corner, I still got my reference up here. And I can always look back and use references. That's like the #1 thing I suggest if you want to just be a better artist in general, is reference everything you do. Reference, reference, reference. My best designs come when I reference something. My best breakthroughs happen when I reference something. So I always have a reference on hand, even when I'm designing Pokemon. Especially when I'm designing Pokemon. It never hurts to look at what the greats are doing and imitating them. there we go. When it comes to back legs, usually I don't even like bother coloring them in. I just take the paint bucket and just dump it, call it a day. A little bit on the tail. Alright, and that's your first layer of shading done. Sometimes if you want to make your design pop, you go for another layer. Depends on the Pokemon. For me, I tend to just take this, drag my blues to be a little bit darker, more than the magenta side, and see the legs. Oh crap. There we go. And multiply. And like on the back foot, I just go in and darken it just a little bit. Over here. I'm not sure how well it shows up on a YouTube stream because it's a YouTube stream, but just a little bit on like some of the edges, usually where the joints are, where there would actually be some heavy shading. I do a little bit of inclusion. Like that, just a little bit. And last layer is going to be the lighting. So, like the others, I would do a clip mask. This time I'd start to overlay. I would take this, bump it up there, make it a light yellow. Bring this up a bit, tone this down, and kind of just go at it. Sometimes, like for a red, you might need to like make the lighting a little bit like more white. Otherwise, it just comes out hard orange. Well, we got a good thing going on here. And as you see, it doesn't really take a lot. Just think about where the light would reflect strongest on the design. It doesn't need to be super intense or super realistic. Top of the head is going to receive more light. The more outward pronounced bits of the fur would receive more light. So on and so forth. And here we go. We got ourselves our little fire starter here. Another thing you could do is just leave it on normal, bump this up to a white, tone down, shrink the size of your pencil or whatever you're using, and just add a little bit of highlights. Not a whole lot, just a bit. Okay, tone down the normals just a tad. And add just a little bit of shine to that. I completely forgot about his nose. It's completely bare. So let's go back and fix that real quick. And there we go. We have ourselves a nice little fire starter. How many layers did we go through? 1, 2, 3, 4, 11 layers. 11 layers. That's no big deal. So, that's kind of it. We got ourselves a nice little fire starter. We built our stuff from the ground up. We focused on, yeah. Give me 2 seconds to get my thoughts together. Ugh. So, we got our initial design. We built our stuff up from general shape language. And let's do this. Big ugly green. So, we have our general shape language that we got going here. Big body, big head, small body. And we just riffed on it for a hot minute. General basic designs. Keeping it nice and simple, nice and loose. We don't need to make anything too complicated when we're drafting, right? And then we built on top of that a little bit. We refined it. No longer is it a little bit messy. We cleaned it up. We cleaned up the horns. We gave it a more defined face, a more defined feature. We didn't really shift the body as much as I thought we would, but we did do some minor alterations to the body to make it more not pronounced. Actually, we shrunk it a little bit so we can have the main focus be on the face and the head, because that's kind of where we want our design to stand out the most, and that's what we want people to focus on the most, is that section there. So we go through that, and what we got from it is a strong silhouette. Delete that layer, spawn a new one. So we got a unique silhouette that, for the most part, yep, I am indeed using Clip Studio Paint, and you can probably get that on sale relatively soon, if not right now. Sorry, Zane, didn't notice your comments there. I gotta start paying attention to the actual comments in there more often. But yeah, we build ourselves a nice strong silhouette from there. Make sure that it doesn't resemble. Okay, it can kind of resemble other Pokemon because there's a lot of Pokemon with 4 feet and what have you. But it's got to, in general, be unique, and you got to be able to tell what it is from a distance. You got to have a successful who's that Pokemon. You don't win when everyone is trying to guess who's the Pokemon. You win when everyone can just look at it and be like, oh yeah, that's Pikachu. That's how you know you got a good design. When no one is fooled by the who's that Pokemon.
Clips Haircuts app. Check in, track your arrival time, get a 15-minute alert when it's time to head in. If it were any
We
more
all got our haircuts
cut your hair.
at Supercuts.
Clips, the pros.
We all just went there and did it midstream. I know I did, because I'm just that good and dedicated.
Today, and start earning points on every order. Points you can redeem for free McDonald's with new My McDonald's Rewards. Only in the app.
So from there, we cleaned up our design of the line art phase. We did minor alterations while doing that, simply because that's just how line art works. So I got ourselves a strong line art, and then we started coloring. And as you can see, I added a little bit more. I decided to give it another palette, because originally, for those of you who weren't here when I was initially drawing this, which is Zane, this section was, his bottom half was mostly tan, But I noticed that his tail part had a nice little thing going on here where this section here was really nice. I wanted to see that in more parts of its body. So even in the coloring phases, I was making alterations and I was adjusting things. So now you see it all over, which I think led to a stronger design. Because making sure a Pokemon's color, I was about to say make sure a Pokemon's color matches someone's expectations. It doesn't need to do that, because I just remembered that Garchomp is predominantly blue but is a dragon ground type. But you gotta make sure that the color fits the Mon. And then from there, we just did some post-processing. And we got ourselves a lovely little OC starter. Now, I kind of want to see... Well, you don't have to, if you don't want to or if you can't. And the idea that I wanted to do here is not to just draw a goat and have you draw the same goat. I kind of want y'all to like see the process behind what I do and just kind of do the process for your own design. Because your thing doesn't have to be a goat. I literally just picked a goat because I decided to pick a goat. You can do a dog, or a bird, or a cow, or whatever this thing is. I don't know what this is. But people love Pokemon, and people love it when other people make Pokemon. And if you feel like your design isn't good enough, I can tell you that it is. Sure, a design can always be built stronger, and like this design can probably be built stronger. Because the last step is to step away from it and just let the design sit for a day or two. And then come back and say, did what I do end with the best result? Never ask, can I do more to it? Because you can always do more to a design. I could strap a Gatling gun 15 belts onto this thing and call it Super Duper Landmon, but then I'd just have another property altogether. It wouldn't be a Pokemon anymore, it'd be a Digimon. So the question is what I have the best it can be? And sometimes the answer is nah, and sometimes I've had to go back and redesign some stuff for myself. Specifically my Poochyena one, you'll see that, oh, I guess, well, that happened. But like I was saying, if you go and watch a previous video of mine, you'd see that my Poochyena that I designed switched and changed up after a while. And I had to redo it because it just wasn't as strong as it could be. And I'm much more happy with the current results. So that happens too. But yeah, I've been streaming this for the better part of an hour and 30 minutes. I hoped everyone who watched this enjoyed it. I'll probably do something like this again next week, and I hope to see you guys there next time. I really appreciate if you go through my series, like, subscribe, do all that jazz. Eventually I'll stop uploading more videos like this in the future, probably after New Year's. But having a higher subscriber base would help. So I appreciate you guys taking your time out to watch and listen to me, and I'll catch y'all next time. Later.